Hi, I'm Suzy Spivey with Empowering Women, and I'm so excited to have our guest today, Stephanie Bennet Vogt, who is New England's leading space clearing expert and the author of the award-winning book, Your Spacious Self. I'll just show it to you here. Welcome, Stephanie. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's wonderful to be here.
Yeah, I'm actually thrilled to see you again. I met you a few years ago at one of your workshops.
I remember. Yeah, it was one of my good ones too.
Well, yes, it was. It was
Yeah.
wonderful. It
Yeah.
was wonderful. So I'm so excited to see the re-release of your wonderful book.
Thank you.
And, you know, I'm just wondering, you know, I don't have a lot of your backstory. So I'm curious, what led you to a career in space clearing?
Well, how long do you have? Actually, we teach what we need to learn, right?
Exactly.
And I feel that it caught me, the whole idea of space clearing. It wasn't something I had planned to do. I had been a high school Spanish teacher for 20 years. I had just I had the American dream kind of perfect job, perfect everything. Until one day, this is almost 20 years ago, one day I came down with something that was garden variety, but it persisted. It was like the flu, and I was sick in bed for a whole month. And for me, that was the wake-up call. That something I was way out of balance, and with my true heart's desire. I didn't know what I loved anymore. I thought I loved teaching, but it's like I hit the wall, the proverbial wall, and I felt like I was going to keel over if I didn't leave the job.
Isn't that? And that's so many people
Yeah.
are either in that place or have experienced that place.
Yeah.
And so, what did you do?
So
How did you move
I ended
beyond
up
it?
taking a leave of absence, and it was one thing led to another. I had no idea what I was going to do. I figured I was going to go back.
Right.
But I started to clear my clutter.
Interesting.
And for someone as neat and organized as I am, that came as a shock to me that I could be so cluttered. It was like, it came down like a sledgehammer on my self-concept and my worldview that I had it clutter.
And I'm sure that anyone who came into your home would say, "Oh, your home is so beautiful and neat," and right.
That's how I grew up, so orderly. I was a pack rat in the most organized pack rat. But the other thing that was going on at the same time was an awareness, an aha, that I noticed that certain home spaces actually made me feel ill.
Interesting.
And one in particular was my uncle's home. I would go to visit him for the weekend, and I'd come away feeling like I had the flu. And it wasn't until like the third visit that I realized, wait a minute, hold the phone. This may not be me. This may be something that I'm reacting to or responding to in my environment. So I started to connect the dots.
Them. Interesting.
I had stuff, but I also noticed that certain spaces just didn't feel very good to me.
Right.
So one thing led to another. I started to study. At the time, almost 20 years ago, it was a very esoteric field.
Right.
Not many people knew about space clearing. It's kind of like a distant cousin of feng shui.
Right.
Feng shui is now very popular. This goes right into the invisibles, the invisible world of energy, the sea of energy that we all inhabit.
And most people are so unaware of.
Yeah. And the only way we really know how space affects us is how the space makes us feel.
And you do a brilliant job of differentiating between clutter and clearing. Can you talk about how you differentiate those two terms?
I wish, first of all, that there was another word for clutter, because most people believe that that's the physical stuff. The stuff the nightmare that's in our closet, or the stuff that's spilling out of the drawers, or just the piles. Clutter, I've had to redefine it as something bigger than what we think it is.
Yeah.
Particularly from my background as a space clearing practitioner, and knowing what spaces feel like and how they can be impacted by human beings and their thoughts. Clutter to me is anything that gets in the way of our experiencing our true nature and best life. So anything goes.
And that's so much bigger
It's
than
way
what we
bigger.
typically define
Yes.
as clutter.
So you could probably say, as human beings, we're all cluttered. We all have
Yes.
some form of clutter
Exactly.
that gets in the way of our experiencing our true nature and best life.
Yeah.
So what is it? You know, your home may be pristine. It may feel really good.
Right.
You may have not, you know, maybe lean machine when it comes to stuff. But if you're thinking thousands of thoughts a day, and not all of them very positive, you've got clutter.
Right.
And clearing, again, it's not about getting rid of, throwing it out, managing it in some way. I found that a lot of traditional approaches aren't working. They don't last.
Exactly.
Because our approach is very linear. It's very limited, actually. It's very linear. It's very yang, using some language from my profession. Yang meaning very active.
Right.
Yin being more passive. And what a lot of the approaches to clutter clearing miss is the opportunity to actually feel the feelings that come up when we clear.
Right.
There's no room for that in most traditional approaches.
Right.
And oh, I lost my train of thought there. But no,
okay.
it's really about honoring our process,
Right.
as much as moving the stuff or addressing the thoughts that get in the way.
I mean, I've watched so many different types of, organizing and clutter clearing
all those
shows.
shows.
There's so
Yeah.
many shows.
Yeah.
Which clearly leads us to believe that there's a lot of cluttered houses and homes and
Absolutely.
minds out there.
Absolutely.
And it is interesting that a lot of the processes are, you have 5 minutes. Get rid of as much as you can. And your approach really is the exact opposite.
It is. It's
right?
very counterintuitive too, because my
Yeah.
approach is to slow down.
Right.
It's to slow down, simplify. It's my 4 S's. Slow down, simplify, sense, as in to feel, and self-care. And as I see it, if we don't apply sort of equal amounts of those 4 practices, clearing cannot be sustainable. It's just
Right.
not sustainable.
So people let go of things and then it just comes right back.
Yeah, or in a different form.
Yeah.
So it is really first and foremost about slowing it so way down that we can start to actually feel the feelings that are and the emotions that are encoded in our clutter.
Right. So for instance, you have something that you've kept for 30 years and you don't use it. It's stuffed away somewhere, but there's something that you want to hold on to it.
Yes.
And so it's like, what is that? Examining.
What is that exactly?
Right.
What is that sort of energetic tie or
Right.
connection? And how do we release those ties? Really, that's the
Yeah.
work. It's not about the clutter, and it's
Right.
not about the clearing or the outcome or the desire that you're yearning to have a clear home or a clear life or a best life. It's really how do we relate to the experience?
Yeah. And how do we
How do we
that?
relate to the experience?
Yeah.
How is it that, so one of my favorite metaphors for this work is acupuncture. Most people know what acupuncture is. You're inserting a needle into the various meridians of the body to bring about more the flow of energy that's natural in the
Right.
human body. Well, clearing can be very similar in that if we just inserted every day pure compassionate awareness into the experience. So let's say it is the bookcase, or it's the nightmare that's in the basement, or it's just the desk or the emails that are invading our
Right.
inbox. If we could just bring 1 minute to our experience of what it feels like, first of all, to have that, and then just allow all the sensations that come up. It could be sweaty palms. If you're really slowing it down, dialing it down, you'll notice that, maybe there's like little frog in your throat, or you're feeling more thirsty than usual, or you're feeling kind of tears coming up, or you feel like that knot in the stomach, if we could just bring our awareness to that moment, guess what happens?
What?
It starts to shift and release all by itself. And you haven't done anything. You haven't moved anything about. You haven't deleted the emails. You've just had this very profound experience. And what's so cool about that is that as you add more of these, sort of insert more of these acupuncture needles into your experience, you start to create a ripple effect and a spaciousness and room, so that you actually don't feel as attached. You go, you know what, I can get rid of this, or you know, I don't need these emails anymore, because you did the work. So it doesn't matter if the work is you're working on the emails, or you're working on the basement, or you're working on the thoughts that you'd like to change, or you're working on, you know, stuckness around relationships that you want to bring back into balance. If you're practicing that, it's going to help with the desk. Everything will help.
And you know, there's so many people, I know I'm one of them, that is seriously buried in email clutter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's overwhelming. And literally, you know, I know many people don't know where to start. And it's funny when you were talking about, you know, the reactions that you have in the moment. You know, I know my reaction is, I just get up from my desk and walk away.
Of course, it's called resistance, and that we go into. So here's why: we go into this thing called fight and flight. We all have heard of fight and flight, and when we are overwhelmed, when we're butting up against our stuff, as it were, we go into that place. We go into reaction mode, and this is why dialing it down, slowing it down, can be very beneficial. As uncomfortable as it might be, just 1 minute of that will start to grow in just exponentially. And it will start, what's great about doing the 1 minute approach is that you start to bypass the part of the brain that goes into fight and flight.
Interesting.
And I always recommend we start with things that are easy, not with the email inbox if that's the thing that totally just makes you go crazy, or the kitchen if it's, you know, unloading the dishwasher, or if it's the stuff in the car, or whatever. If it's stuff, choose differently. Choose something that is a bit of a stretch, but won't fry your circuits, won't make you go just ballistic. So I always recommend choose something you can put away every day, and choose the same thing, and that starts to grow new habits, like actually it grows new neural pathways in the brain. So say your thing is that you keep forgetting, losing your car keys, or the remote control. Where did it go? Where did it go? Or the eyeglasses, or whatever, the reading glasses. So choose that. Choose that one thing.
And find one special.
And find the special little bowl for it, or the special little plate, or the special little corner, and have that be the practice. The practice being just feeling the feelings that come up, the resistance. You know, I can actually, just talking about it, I can feel like this little thing in my throat. It's like my mouth kind of goes dry. And I have my own little codes. My body tells me so many ways that we hold on or get stuck. And if we started to slow it down, we begin to decode. We begin to notice those points of reference. It's like, oh, there's the dry mouth. Oh, I think I'm butting up against something that is really scary and threatening, and I don't like it, and I don't want to go there, and I'd rather go pile in more, you know, junk food because I can't handle it, or I'm going to go watch TV. I got to zone out. This is not comfortable. So the practice is doing something that nourishes you. That's where the self-care piece is really important.
And that's something that so often gets overlooked in our crazy busy schedules, right?
I mean, really, clearing is not about throwing away. It is about letting go. And that's the difference. And that's
letting go more internally.
Really, the clutter is just the symptom. It is just if it is visible or invisible, it's just the symptom. It's not the problem. And really, the addressing of the clutter is an internal experience, and it really is about processing.
And that's how you distinguish or talk about inner and outer clutter, correct?
Yeah, well, inner is anything that is invisible. Most clutter is invisible, if you think about it.
Yeah, and that's so
and
important
all that
for people
clutter
to
on the outside.
understand.
Yeah, all that stuff out there
Yeah.
had to start somewhere.
Right.
It didn't just crawl into the house by itself.
Right.
It got there somehow. How did it get there? It was probably a series of memories, thoughts, beliefs, traumas maybe, that conspired to create what we now see out there. I don't believe that what you see out there is separate from what is really cooking inside.
Exactly.
And all of that got generated by a mind, what I call the monkey mind.
Yes.
The part of the mind that is in the past or in the future.
Right.
Or attached. So really, how do we start to unhinge and quiet the monkey mind? Well, it's through certain simple daily practices.
And, I feel like the first step really is awareness. So it's becoming aware of those thoughts and those body sensations. And I love this idea of taking 1 minute to bring awareness to whatever's going on.
Yes, that's actually the clearing. People
That
think
is
it's the moving. No, the
Yeah.
clearing is actually bringing the light of awareness. It's like shining a flashlight on the pattern. Because these are just patterns. It's just stuff.
Right.
What makes the stuff feel so awful or cluttered is how we relate to the stuff and the judgments that we've laid on thick to the stuff.
Yeah.
It's mostly the judgments. So if we can just bring 1 minute of conscious awareness,
Right.
what I call compassionate awareness,
Oh, I love
to that experience. And then you're done. That's your minute. That's the practice.
Yeah.
And you just repeat that every day. That practice starts to grow into habits that not only feel really good, but they are lasting.
Right.
And start to reverse everything,
Now,
shift everything.
what's your advice for someone who's like, okay, so this idea of taking a minute every day is great and all, but I'm surrounded by clutter and I can't do anything because I feel overwhelmed by it.
Well, first of all, recognize that that's overwhelm.
Yeah.
And that clearing is not going to happen if you're in overwhelm. It's already, you're dead on arrival. The minute you say, I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah.
You've already gone into fight and flight. The stress hormones have started cascading through your body. It's over.
Yeah. So how do you
my
dial that
recommendation
back?
when you're there is to go do something that feels really good. And I don't mean junk food, and just something that nourishes you instead. And then revisit the idea of clearing something simple and small.
Right.
So there is a daily practice that I talk about in the book that I recommend, and it combines the 4 pathways of clearing. 4 pathways being intention, action, non-identification, as in detachment, and compassion. And the problem with a lot of traditional approaches is they're all action-oriented. They're not about intention or non-identification or compassion. So a simple daily practice would be to adopt a 1 minute practice, or a 4 minute practice, if you will, of the 4 pathways, sort of folding that into your life.
Right.
So intention, for example, a simple way of practicing intention would be to focus on, it's really about focusing.
Right.
Focus on something that does work in your life. It's
So
gratitude.
not necessarily saying, my intention is to have
Get
a
rid
clear
of all
desk.
this. No.
It's more...
The practice would be just simply focusing on what you do want.
Yeah.
How does it feel? How do you want to feel with that desk done? Really, go to sensations.
Right.
That is really where it starts. But one of the simplest ways to practice intention is to be grateful.
Absolutely.
So that's the the 4 pathways combined are spell true. So T stands for thanks.
Yes.
It's a great little way to remember T for thanks. So be grateful for something. Focus on what is working in your life. So maybe the desk is a mess, but what is working about that desk? What is working about you? What is working about your life?
Right.
And focus on that for 1 minute. The second would be reduce and repeat. Reduce and repeat. So find a task that's not so challenging that it will fry your circuits.
Right.
And repeat it until it becomes like natural and normal. That's why I call it reduce and repeat, the R&R.
That's perfect.
Isn't that great?
Perfect.
The
I love
R&R.
it.
So,
Yeah.
you know, if it is the desk, if that's, you've decided I really want to tackle the desk, I want to approach the desk, you know, take a little section of the desk, or take a drawer of the desk, or just a pencil nub, one thing. That would be your practice for action, the R. U stands for unplug. So it's really about disidentifying, letting go of attachment, finding ways, and there are plenty of exercises in my book. My book is loaded with all
Wonderful.
4 pathways, exercises. But the U would be to, for example, you could just say, instead of going into that self-flagellation, self-judgment, I can't do it right, I can't, whatever it is that you're starting with, I am, or I have, or I can't.
Exactly.
You can reframe that. Just start to shift it. It's like just turning a switch and saying, this is. So this is a baby crying. This is a dog peeing on the carpet again. This is our dog peeing on the carpet again. This is tailgater. So, and the last one is E, which stands for elevate.
Oh,
and
I like
of course, elevate is anything that makes your heart sing, makes you just feel really good. So that's the fourth of the TRUE.
I love that.
And but here's the thing: you can't just do intention. I think Will Rogers said you could be on the right track, but if you don't move, you won't get very far.
Right.
So that's the action. It's like you got to have some action. You have to have some intention. You have to have a certain degree of detachment, but and of course elevation, doing something that nourishing yourself with self-care, and the 4 really work together as a unified whole.
Yeah.
They really, that's where the clearing becomes magic.
And the interesting thing is that I think the steps that most often get left off are the T and the E.
Yeah.
Giving thanks and elevating yourself, right?
Oh yeah, action
Yeah.
is pretty much it.
Yeah.
It's like I gotta do it, I gotta finish it, I gotta manage this, I have to fix it.
Right.
Do.
Yeah.
But if you notice, it's just 1/4 of the work. There's a whole lot more going on to clearing than meets the eye. And if we really want clearing to be nourishing and sustainable, we need to apply sort of massive doses of the other 3 for sure. And again, it is not something you do, you learn in a weekend. It's something that you practice.
A practice
Over and
yes.
over. It's a daily practice. And that's
And
why
it's something, oftentimes people think, oh, well, she has authored a book and she leads workshops in this, so she's got herself covered. Yeah, right? It's an ongoing thing, right?
It's still, even today, for example, I sent out some emails, my big newsletter. It's my quarterly newsletter. I only do it 4 times a year. And Google crashes. It just crashes. And it's like, whoa. And I went through, it's like I went into overwhelm.
Right.
Things started to not work for me. I kind of glazed over. I could feel like just waves of stress. Yeah,
Right.
I could feel it. I really know what that
As if you
feels
caused
like.
Google to crash.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
I felt like I had.
Right. Which we do. We take that on.
So what did I do? I just had to close my eyes and breathe. Really, starting with a breath, and then really it's like reset myself.
Yeah.
And so I pushed my chair back. I closed the computer down. I went downstairs. So I had to take some action that was not going to keep feeding this drama that I had, that was getting worse by the second. I could feel it. It's just how I felt. And then the breathing, and I got myself a cup of coffee, I had a little breakfast. I just started to do something that felt good, that tasted good. I did something else, and I noticed myself saying, this is just Google crashing.
Yeah.
This is emails that don't go through. And as I started to take that step back and breathe and slow it down, it's like all that practice I've been doing over the years just kicked right in.
Right.
And within 5 minutes, I was good again. It was like I had found my neutral.
That's a
The
wonderful
thing
example.
about when you go into fight and flight and you just start going down what I call the rabbit hole of fear, is it becomes very difficult to pull ourselves out of there.
Right.
Once the cascade of hormones has just gotten triggered in the brain. So there really is a biochemical thing that's happening, not just sort of a physical thing. So it's really managing that and going into the moment of how does this feel, allowing yourself to have all those feelings without, and here's the key, without judging them as good or bad.
That's so important.
That's the key.
That's
it's
so
like,
important.
it's just a feeling, and it's just a problem, it's just a sensation.
Right.
Being in that moment
Yeah.
changes everything.
This has been so wonderful. I know everyone that sees this will get so much out of it. So before we wrap up, I want to let our viewers know how to reach you and how to find out more, because I know your website has a lot of wonderful resources.
And I really love to give a lot away, because I'm on a mission. I feel like I'm on a mission to change the world one drawer at a time.
I love it.
One toothpick at a time, one hairball at a time.
Right.
Let's just take that one hairball with awareness, and it'll change everything. So my website is spaceclear.com. One word.
Spaceclear.com.
Yep.
Wonderful.
And it's a blog as well, and I have lots and lots of resources, including a 28-day online course through Daily Om.
Wonderful.
That is, you pay whatever you can afford. It's also on my website, and of course there are books that my book and several books actually that I have that I've been a part of. So
great. Well, thank you so
thank you,
much.
Suzy.
It's been a
so
pleasure.
great to see you again and to be part of this.
And
thank
really
you so
wonderful
much.
information.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Happy clearing.
Happy clearing.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today. For more information, please visit our website, Empowering Women TV. See you next time.